You can feel it in the way the line of scrimmage bends, like something ancient and necessary just clicked back into place. The Bears didn't win this one with a highlight reel of deep shots or a last-second miracle. They won it by pounding the ground until the Eagles' resistance crumbled. Two backs over 100 yards. One offensive identity reforged in the span of a single Sunday. That's not a fluke. That's a statement. From the first snap, Chicago treated the game like a trench war and invited Philly to try and stop it. DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai didn't just pick their spots, they ate the spots. Swift's quickness and sudden cuts forced defenders to hesitate. Monangai's north-south power made sure that hesitation turned into lost yards. Together, they created a dual threat that's been rare in modern offenses. One back to beat you in space and another to punish you through the middle. When both are rolling, play calling gets simple and brutal. Keep giving it to them until they stop you. Simple plans executed well beat complicated plans executed badly, and Chicago proved that again. People will point to the stats and the history. Two backs with 100 yards in the same game for the first time in 40 years is sexy and rare, but the real story is what the run game did to the rest of the offense. Time of possession bled in Chicago's favor. Third and longs became third and manageable. The offensive line, often criticized early in the year, showed up with consistent push, angles, and finish. When you control the line of scrimmage, you don't just move the chains. You wear out the other team's front seven, you shorten the game, and you make decisions for the opponent. Ben Johnson called a game that prioritized leverage and repetition, and the scheme let his run game RSVP to the party every time. What's smart about this version of the Bears is the balance it creates for Caleb Williams. The rookie hasn't needed to be a magician every week. When the run game is legitimate, Williams can operate inside a tighter window without needing to win with improvisation. That's a gift for a young quarterback. It's the kind of game plan that protects a rookie while still letting him grow. Controlled reads, fewer high-variance throws, and highlight opportunities that come from play action or defenses overcommitting. Williams still has off-target moments, that's to be expected, but when the offense is structured around a reliable ground game, those misses are less costly and less frequent. This also speaks to roster construction. The Bears didn't luck into this. It's a product of front office moves that prioritized versatility in the backfield and line play that can finish. Swift brings burst and playmaking. Monangai brings the kind of mess-you-up volume that buys second halves. When that pairing works, opponents must respect both styles. You can't load the box and still expect to stop the stretch and zone reads. You can't play light boxes and hope to hold up against the downhill ISO. That strategic tension is what allows Johnson to dial up either a slow, clock-eating drive or an explosive counterpunch. There's also a momentum component that matters in November. Winning the line of scrimmage is about habits. It's about reps compounding into confidence. A team that finishes fourth quarter drives because they can run is a team that grows harder to scheme against. Opposing defensive coordinators suddenly have to choose their poison. Do you keep an extra defender in the box and risk getting beat over the top, or do you play lighter and let Chicago grind out positives? Those are really good problems to give your rivals. Now, what about sustainability? Great question. A hot run game can be neutralized by elite defenses that stack the box with length and pass rush speed, or by injuries that thin the trenches. The key for Chicago is depth and flexibility. Can the Bears keep both backs healthy and effective down the stretch? Can the O-line maintain technique against heavier front sevens? The early season questions about run block continuity were real. The answer now is that they've found a formula. The long test is whether adjustments from opponents will be matched by Chicago's counter adjustments. Good teams adapt, great teams anticipate. There's also a strategic advantage in drafting and development. When your running game is credible, you can gradually introduce wrinkles that pay off later. Play action becomes more dangerous. Tight ends get single coverage. Third and manageable turns into fourth and trying your luck for the opponent. Ben Johnson's job gets easier when the defense must respect the ground game at all times. And that, in a league obsessed with edge creation and situational football, is a huge currency. Let's not ignore the psychological lift either. Fans see a team that dominates up front and they believe more. Players who were doubted in September start to feel like the reason for optimism in November. That cultural swing is invaluable. Confidence breeds cleaner snaps, more decisive blocks, and sharper tackling. The tiny edges that show up on tape and on the scoreboard. Monangai's pounding runs and swift sudden bursts don't just move yards. They set the emotional tone for a team that wants to be physical. This is also a coaching moment for Ben Johnson. He's shown the willingness to pivot and to let the game plan be dictated by what's working. That's the hallmark of modern offensive leadership, the humility to let simplicity win and the vision to build a season around what your team does best. If Johnson keeps leaning into that strength without becoming one-dimensional, the Bears can keep their opponents guessing and maintain control in tight division races. So, what do rival defenses do now? You can bet schematic changes are coming. Expect more stacked boxes, heavier fronts on early downs, and defensive coordinators scheming to force Williams into more passes. But that invites the next phase: false approaches, misdirection, and play-action counters designed to punish overcommitment. That chess match is where the Bears have the advantage. They've shown they can set the table. Now it's about closing the deal strategically. The simplest truth is this: teams are built from the inside out. Offensive lines, running backs, and smart coaching create a foundation that can outlast flashier star plays. Chicago's two-headed backfield gives them a foundation. When your foundation can crumble rivals and control the tempo, you control narratives. You're no longer hoping for games to break your way. You're forcing games to be the way you want them. End of the day, this wasn't a fluke. It was a design. And if you're counting the implications, start with this. When a team runs like that, it doesn't have to rely on boom or bust throws to win. It can grind, manage, and then strike when the opposition's legs get heavy. That's playoff football. That's the architecture of consistent wins. If you want an image to hold on to, picture two backs finishing a game with over 100 yards each while the opposing crowd grows quiet because the clock no longer favors them. That silence at the stadium is a scoreboard in another form. It's momentum, pressure, and inevitability rolled into one. The Bears found their voice in the run game this week. Now every team watching has to decide how to answer it, because answers don't come easy when watchwords are push, finish, and repeat. They said Chicago couldn't run on real defenses. They said Caleb Williams was still learning that the Bears' record was built on fluff. On Black Friday against the reigning Super Bowl champions, the Chicago Bears answered with a performance that felt less like an apology and more like a declaration. We're physical, we're disciplined, and we can bury you in the trenches. Final score: Chicago Bears 24, Philadelphia Eagles 15. ESPN.com, this wasn't a gimmick. The Bears ran for 281 yards and controlled the clock like an old-school power team. DeAndre Swift finished with 125 rushing yards and a touchdown. Kyle Monangai ripped off 130 yards and a score of his own. Both backs topping 100 yards in the same game for the Bears hadn't been seen in decades. That steamrolling ground game turned the Eagles' home field into a rhythmless echo chamber. PhiladelphiaEagles.com. What made the difference wasn't one